Everyone thinks the Garmin Epix Pro Gen 2 is the ultimate do-everything adventure watch, but here's the thing, you shouldn't buy it yet because the part everyone skips over is the trade-off that can make or break your experience. Gorgeous AMOLED, yes, but at a cost most buyers don't see coming. I went in ready to love it, wore it daily for 4 weeks across trail runs, strength sessions, pool and open water swims, city walks, and sleep tracking. And one discovery nearly made me send it back. Look, I get the hype, but let's be real, specs on a page and life on your wrist are two very different stories. What I found surprised me. Before we dive into what I discovered, if you're already convinced and want the best current price, the link is below. But hang on, because a couple of my test results might change which version you buy or whether you buy it at all. I picked up the Epix Pro because I needed one watch that didn't look like a tank in the office but could still hang on a pre-dawn trail run, a travel week, and a weekend hike. My Fenix looked bulletproof but felt bulky with a washed-out display indoors. The Forerunner had a great price-to-performance ratio, but I kept missing that premium feel and true topo maps. I wanted a daily driver with real training tools, not a smartwatch pretending to be an athlete. Honestly, I was skeptical. I've been burned before by watches that promise battery life that only exists if you turn everything fun off. Plus, wrist HR during intervals, historically shaky. So I set a rule, if the Epix Pro couldn't handle my weekly load without babying settings, it was out. First test, battery in the real world. I used the 47 Epix Pro with always-on display for a week of mixed training. 3 runs, 1 long hike using topo maps, 2 strength sessions, and sleep each night. Result? With AOD on, expect to charge every 3 to 4 days. Gesture-only display doubles that, but let's be honest, the whole point of AMOLED is that crisp always-on look. The maps were killer on steep climbs, with Climb Pro showing exactly what pain was coming next, but running multi-band GPS and maps will eat into your battery. On a 5-hour hike with multi-band and frequent map panning, I burned roughly a quarter of the battery. Manageable, but you need to plan. The 51 helps a lot on endurance, but it's chunky on smaller wrists. But then, GPS accuracy. I ran the same city loop under bridges and through tree cover with multi-band plus SatIQ enabled and compared tracks against a chest strap plus foot pod pace baseline. The Epix Pro held lines well in parks and wooded sections, and SatIQ smartly dropped to single frequency in open areas to save power. In dense downtown, it occasionally snapped a few meters wide near glassy buildings, better than most, not perfect. Trail switchbacks, legitimately solid. This is top-tier Garmin performance that's good enough for serious training and navigation, but then heart rate and training metrics. Steady-state runs tracked beautifully, matching my chest strap closely. During interval spikes in kettlebell sets, wrist HR lagged and overshot like most optical sensors. Pair a chest strap and the Epix Pro becomes a training animal. Training readiness, HRV status, endurance score, hill score. These features actually started to make sense after about 10 days of data. Travel, late nights, heavy workouts, the readiness score reflected it. Not magic, but useful guardrails when ego wants to overdo it. But then, the flashlight. I thought it was a gimmick. Nope. Night runs, dog walks, rummaging in a dark garage, surprisingly clutch. The red safety pulse is great roadside. On bouncy runs, the beam does wobble on the wrist, so it's more for visibility than trail spotting. Battery impact was minimal in short bursts. Navigation and maps were the wow factor and the pain point. The AMOLED maps are genuinely beautiful. Trails pop. Intersection detail is clear. Up ahead data and turn alerts worked well on loaded courses. Downloading topo maps over Wi-Fi was easy. Panning and zooming on wrist is still fiddly, especially with gloves. It's fine for checking your line or seeing the next climb. It's not a replacement for a phone map session when planning detours. Here's where it gets interesting. The Epix Pro's biggest strength is also its catch. The AMOLED display elevates everyday use in mapping, but if you live in always-on mode and do long GPS workouts, you'll be charging more often than you expect. Training features nearly identical across Garmin's upper tier. So you're largely paying for the display, the flashlight, the new sensor, and size options. My most surprising discovery after 4 weeks, 20 tracked workouts, and about 120 miles logged. The decision isn't whether the Epix Pro is good, it's whether it's right for your usage and wrist. If you love an always-on AMOLED and want a premium daily watch that can absolutely train hard, this nails it. If you want maximum battery and sunlight readability with less charging anxiety, the Fenix line still wins. If you care purely about performance per dollar, the Forerunner 965 gets you 80 to 90% of the training brains for a lot less. Compared to Apple Watch Ultra, the Epix Pro gives you far better battery for endurance training, deeper training metrics, and real offline maps. The Ultra still wins smart features and app ecosystem. And about those battery claims. The big numbers assume gesture-based screen behavior. Always on cuts endurance dramatically. SatIQ helps, but physics is physics. Now that you know the real trade-off, display elegance versus battery reality, make sure you pick the right size and edition before it goes out of stock during sales. I've linked the best current prices below, including the Sapphire titanium versions if you're hard on gear and hate scratches. Bottom line, don't buy the Garmin Epix Pro Gen 2 if you just want Garmin's training brain at the lowest cost, if you need week-long battery with always on, or if you have a smaller wrist and are tempted by the 51 purely for battery. Do buy it if you want a stunning daily display, reliable GPS, legit training tools, proper maps, and that surprisingly useful flashlight in a watch that can go from office to summit. Most people will be happiest with the 47. Endurance junkies can justify the 51. Smaller wrists should look at the 42. Final word, it's not the best Garmin for everyone, it's the most tempting. Make sure it's the right temptation for you.